everybody, I'm Chris Epling. This is the Art Workshop here on Pike TV. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We're really excited that you did. You may notice it's a different back set than what's typically shown at the intro of the show. That's because right now, as of the recording, we're right in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. So social restrictions are being placed, and so we're having to do what we have to do to keep moving forward. So I'm actually recording from my shop here. So the back setting, if you see a lot of art supplies and clutter, well, that's because we're shooting here. So we're really excited about today's episode. This is something a little different. Now, before I talk about it, I want you to be assured that if you don't have this type of medium at home or access to it, that's fine. You don't really need it because watercolor, which is more accessible and probably something that you do have, is just like this medium in a lot of ways. So when we use this medium and talk about it, just be reminded that you can use watercolor and get the same effect. If you do create something, we'd love to see it. You can send your artwork to piketv99@gmail.com. We will air it right here on the show. Include your name, a little bit about yourself, maybe where you go to school if you go to school somewhere. If you don't want to include that, you don't have to. Your age would be good though. And your grade level, something like that. Just send us something and we'd love to share it. So today's episode, we're working in acrylic gouache. Now that's a really, really strange name, I know, but gouache is a medium meaning whatever you use to draw with. That's similar to watercolor in a lot of ways because you can add water to it. And what that does is it takes the color, the boldness, and it really reduces the tone. So you can have one color and have variations from lighter to darker of that color using water. Now, acrylic gouache, and this is just one brand, there's many brands. You can buy them in tubes such as these little tubes, and inside these little tubes, of course, is all the paint. And as you use it, you really need a palette or something to put it on, and you basically just pop the top off and you squeeze a little bit on there as you need it. You don't really need one like this with the top on it. You can use whatever you have and just put a little paint out. So we are going to be needing a palette today. If you don't have a palette at home, piece of wax paper, perfectly fine. If you don't know what that is, ask your parents. They probably have some in the kitchen. If you don't have acrylic gouache, again, you can use watercolor. In that case, you don't really need a medium. You're going to need a brush, though. We do need a brush to work with this medium. And we're going to try to put this together. We're going to do an old school cartoon. Think of back in the days of Hanna-Barbera, Looney Tunes. They used a cell type way of coloring. So they would draw the line art, which would be on one piece of clear acetate paper. Behind that then would be the color. So they would actually color the back of the acetate sometimes, or an entirely different piece of acetate paper, and they would add color that way on layers. But they were very, very, very nice, bold colors. They were colors that really kind of stood out and were picked very, very selectively for whatever the character's personality was. We'll talk a little bit of that as we create our character today. You are going to need a pencil. You're going to need some paper, preferably something thick that you can add water to. If we're going to use water, we may use a little bit. But if you don't have that, that's fine. Just remember, the point of all this is to have fun. Learn a little bit about art, take away what you can, and have fun. Create your own things. So thank you for tuning in today. And let's go ahead and jump into today's episode using a medium that's very, very, very close to watercolor, acrylic gouache. All right, everybody, let's get started. So in this tutorial, we were, of course, looking at some really cool paint. I love gouache paint. It's really fun to work with. This is Liquitex gouache paint. It comes in these little bottles I showed you at the beginning, and basically there's a spurt at the end here, so you can pour out just as much as you need. And I've chosen these colors for a reason. I'll give you an idea. Now, Hanna-Barbera, early cartooning would work a lot like this. So someone would, of course, would sketch out the drawing. The drawing would then go to where you put it onto some sort of acetate paper, clear paper, where you could paint underneath it. And in the back of it, we flipped over, and the artist would paint behind the line art on a clear plastic type paper or sheet. And then that would dry, and then each one of those was a still. Now, Hanna-Barbera, or Hanna-Barbera Productions, of course, did a lot of work. Huckleberry Hound, you could think of Yogi Bear. You have the Flintstones, Yogi Bear, Top Cat, Jetsons, Johnny Quest, oh man, the Atom, Laurel and Hardy, The Adventures of Gulliver. Oh man, are you serious? This keeps going. Harlem Globetrotters? What? I'm reading this, of course, I'm being surprised as you are. But those are a list of some of the things that he worked on, or the production company worked on. They won a lot of awards. Joseph Barbera was also given a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1976 for all the stuff he did for cartoons and cartooning and animation. I won't say the stuff he did because he did make a lot of money from it, but he liked doing it apparently. So what we're going to do first, we're going to look at one of the characters. We're going to look at one of the characters here, Quick Draw Mcgraw. Now, if you're familiar with Quick Draw Mcgraw, he was a horse that actually was a cowboy. It's kind of strange, I know, but I'm marking off right now, if you see me, where the screen is basically for what I can draw. And so I have so much space I can work in. All right, so what we're going to do is first draw a circle. I always start with circles, right? This is going to have a shape coming down like this. Just like that. Now what we're going to do is use gouache paint at the end, and we're going to paint this, okay? Now at the top, he has a hat, so we're going to kind of draw that in there. So we got a circle, this oval shape. And there's where we're going to start. The hat will be something like this right here on top of the head. Big, round, red hat. Comes down on each side like this. Just bring those ends in towards this shape. So you make this loop up here, out, in, out, in. If I move too fast for some of you, please watch it again. Slow down the video even. I might move a little fast in some areas, and I apologize. It's just a lot to cover. Now what we're going to have to do here is we're going to put some eyes. So right here in the middle of this circle, draw a couple ovals and give yourself a couple of eyeballs inside those ovals like that. Because here in the front, what we have is the horse's mouth. So Quick Draw's got, of course, circles here to represent the nose and a small little tiny shape there for the mouth. Now the neck's very thin. This is a horse standing up, so you can imagine. I've run out of space here at the bottom a little bit, but we're going to keep going. He's got a handkerchief on. Comes up like that on both sides. So basically I just draw these lines coming in on top of my oval, and that helps to guide me where the next line will be. His arms are behind his back, so he's sort of like this right here. And of course, you can tuck those in. Goes all the way down. And then down at the bottom here, what we have is his gun belt. He's a cowboy, or cow horse. That's weird. And of course, over here he has he's quick draw, right? So he has his little steady firearm right there. There we go. He's got his 6-shooter. And then of course, you gotta draw his feet. Hanna-Barbera would make these little tiny additions to his draw, or well, he'd have it done, or his artist would, I should say. Like these actually look like hooves. I really like that a lot. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take these shapes that we've made, and we're going to grab a pen, and we're going to go over all of these shapes. I'm going to choose for this a felt pen to go over it. So start at the top. I'm going to trace my lines. That's all I'm doing now. Tracing your lines over. So if you were following along at home, you're just going to trace what you drew, okay? These are ears here sticking out on both sides. Just like that. There's a line here. All right, the hat straight across. He has eyebrows, so we'll put a couple of lines here. I probably could have done that with paint. That's okay. And he's got one eye here, one eye here. There's his eyeballs, 1 and 2. His face comes down, and he's got his nose like that. Circle here and a circle there. Now what we're going to do is move on into the neck area. Now you can't see this very well from this perspective, but Quick Draw, of course, being a horse, has a mane. So there's a mane back there tucked in. See a little bit of it right here, so we'll color that black. His arms, stomach, chest area, going down to this gun belt. Now what we're going to do is we're going to erase these lines as we always do, And then what we're going to do is we're going to go over it with color. All right, so if you don't have gouache at home, watercolor works great. And you can also just color pencils. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be what medium I'm using, but if you have it, that's wonderful. So there we go. We have our quick draw. All we need to do now is allow this to dry for a moment. And I apologize for the shaking of the camera, the phone. There we go. Get rid of that line. So what you should be left with now is just the ink, right? Okay, if we were really trying to do a really professional job on this, let's say it was something that a client wanted a large top drawing, we would not use ink first, then go into working with the gouache, because what would happen is it would very much so cause the ink to run, especially when it's drawn fresh like this. But we're going to work with it. Okay, so let me show you what I've done. I've got a tray here. Kind of looks kind of funny, but this is actually a watercolor slash media tray. And now I'm going to pull these little lids off, which is what I pulled off of the actual little tiny containers here. So I popped this thing off, and it had some medium on it. And I thought, well, why put that to waste? I mean, you know, we could use that. So I went ahead and scooped the colors that we need to do quick draw, and I put a little bit all around various sides of this. We may need a little more of certain color, maybe not, it depends. One good thing is the body's white, but we're not going to cheat. We're going to make it an off-white color. Okay, we have our pigment all assorted, little swatches of it, and we use a little bit of water. I'm actually going to pour this directly down in this mixing tray. That's one thing that's really cool about this mixing tray. It's a Japanese mixing tray, so there's all these different areas you can put water in and mix things. We're going to start first with his hat. So we're going to pull some of this red. Notice what I'm doing here. I'm getting my brush wet, and then I'm basically coming over here, get a little bit of water on there, and really get in there. Make sure you get all the areas, because we want this to look really nice and, you know, at least like we've tried to do quick draw some justice here. We may have to go back over this at the end, and we may actually have to re-ink some of the lines, because what happens is this gouache is pretty it's got a lot of pigment in it. So what happens is if you get really close to one line and you cross that line with this pigment, then what you have to do is you have to actually go and redraw that line over. There we go. Now what we have is a red hat. Now, of course, working with gouache is a lot like watercolor. So you notice that I used some water there and mixed it up. And what happens is the more water that you use, the less color you have in your brush. It dilutes the water, the pigment, I should say, and really just kind of, you know, makes it real light, see-through. So the other things that are red on him is this belt. We'll go ahead and get that done too. Here's a good example of painting over top of lines that you may have to go back over later. So we have his gun belt here. There's a little area right there on the gun belt, and these areas here, it's going to be painted over. So that's okay if that happens. The lines really are just there to guide you. And the reason I wanted to do an old school cartoon version with color is to show you, if you remember any type of cartoons, there's solid colors usually in the old ones. So this would be one solid color. You wouldn't see a variation of red. It's just going to be, or maroon. It's just going to be that color. Now what I need to do is go ahead and get my brush wiped out, because I'm going to start now. I'll get a little bit of color down here, a little bit of water, I'm sorry. Make sure the brush is nice and cleaned out, as much as you can anyway. Grab some white and a little bit of red and mix it in there. We're going to try to get to the point, and a little bit of blue. I'm going to try to get to the point where I can match that color on his scarf. It's got a real, like a teal-like color.
And you can see now how I'm using this. I'm going all over the place with it. And eventually when you mix colors like this enough, you get the color you want like I just did. So that's great. We'll go in now and put this on his handkerchief. So we get that nice and done. Very good. In terms of the color, this is about where I want it. Maybe a little bit lighter, but we're going to go ahead and move with this one. There we go. Now mixing gouache is real easy. It mixes a lot like watercolor. The difference in gouache and watercolor is watercolor usually will run out. You can basically wipe it out of your brush. Not this stuff. This stuff you better be ready to do some cleaning because the pigment's a lot thicker than watercolor. It's a different medium. So, all right, so now we're going to use a little bit of black. I'm not even washing my brush out on this one because I want a nice gray. And if I got those other colors, they're going to eventually start to match up real nice. So I get this nice gray, solid gray shape right here, color. Move it all the way back to the heel. This one the same thing. Moving out. You can notice that the colors sort of match each other a little bit. And that's what I get from not washing this brush out 100%. You know, because if you do, you're going to see how the pigment just keeps on going. So he does have a tail. That's something that I forgot. Oh man, that's not good. So the back of him here, he's got a tail that sticks out and down. There we go. And we'll add some black in that. Now this is pretty solid black color. I did not ink this, but I will at the end. I'll go back over it and basically add the lines to make the tail in a second. But we don't want to forget that he has a tail. I hope you are enjoying this. I hope you're following along with me. If you are, I'd love to see your work. You could send it in. Of course, you know, the email address will be on the screen. It's piketv99@gmail.com, I'm pretty sure. But you can, I will make sure on that and let you know. All right, so there's the eyes, the mouth. Now, the color for his head and things like that, we want to be able to get that nice tone. And in order to get the look for his face and his his face and around his neck, I'm actually going to pull a little watercolor in here. And so this watercolor actually matches perfectly. So I'm actually cross mediums a little bit, but that's fine because this will work real well, I think, once we get it on here. So this covers everything right now. This will be the entire nose area here, all of this. And of course down here. Now, there we go. So we have Quick Draw Mcgraw pretty much colored in. His body's white, so we can't do a whole lot with that, but that's okay. We don't need to. What we need to do right now, though, is take that ink pen that we had, and we're actually going to go over this one more time. And we're going to go over this and make sure that our lines can be seen, such as the tail here. Right there, I just went over it a little bit. That's okay. And then you may want to trace over some of the lines like where the gun is and everything else. So the gouache is not ideal for painting acetate stuff like with the cells that they made the cartoons with. I'm pretty sure they used some sort of an acrylic based paint. I could be totally wrong. If I am, please let me know. I don't know a whole lot about old cartoons, but I grew up watching Hanna-Barbera. I remember as a kid being in my great-grandmother's living room and she would babysit me, and we would, you know, she would basically turn on, you know, all those great old cartoons that now have been, you know, kind of forgotten in a way. Not really, but some. And it's kind of sad that these cartoons that help shape a lot of people who are growing up today in the industry making really cool stuff, and they don't get acknowledged as much as they used to. I feel bad for them. Is that normal to feel bad for a cartoon character? Probably not, but I do. All right, so let's fix the hat a little bit more too, and then we should be able to say we've done it. We want to make sure the lines are nice and crisp and follow our character design. If we were building our own character, we'd have a lot more fun doing that. But so, and always sign your work. All right, quick draw Mcgraw. That was pretty fun. I mean, actually getting to draw a cool cartoon character. I loved it. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please, please, please send us your work. We'd love to share it with everybody. Include your name, a little bit about yourself. And I would love to show the world what you created. So thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you had a great time. Till next time, I'm Christopher Epling on behalf of the Art Workshop here at Pike TV. Have a great day and keep drawing.